Arthur Reyes had $340 million. His funeral had 12 chairs. 9 of them stayed empty. This is the story of the richest man in town, and the loneliest. Arthur built an empire out of nothing. One small office. One phone that never stopped ringing. For 30 years he worked past midnight, and every night he told himself the same thing. It's for my family, for my wife, for my daughter, for the people I love. He missed his daughter's first steps because he was closing a deal. He missed her school play because a client flew in. He missed her wedding rehearsal because of a flight to Singapore. Each time, he made himself a promise. One more deal, and then I'll show up. The company grew. The house grew with it. 12 rooms, and most of them stayed locked, unused, silent. The calls kept coming. And every single year, Arthur told himself the very same thing. Next year, I'll slow down. Next year, I'll call her more. Next year, I'll be home for dinner. Next year never came. It only ever turned into the year after. His waiting up for him. His daughter stopped calling to share her news. She had learned he wouldn't pick up anyway. Arthur noticed all of it. And he told himself it didn't matter, because he had built something real, something solid, something that would outlast him. He had money in every account, and no one to call on a Sunday. At 71, Arthur sat alone in his glass office at the top of the tower. In his hands, a photo of his daughter's wedding, a wedding he had watched from a screen half a world away. Outside the glass, an old man in a red knit hat was cleaning the windows, humming quietly to himself. "You built something big," the old man said through the glass. 40 years of it," Arthur answered. The old man nodded slowly. "And who's coming to see it? When it's finally done?" Arthur opened his mouth. But he had no answer. For the first time in 40 years, the man with every answer had none. That night, Arthur did something he hadn't done in 11 years. He called his daughter. She didn't pick up. He called again the next day, and the next. On the 4th try, she answered, surprised, careful, guarded. They spoke for 6 minutes. It wasn't much, but it was the first real conversation in over a decade. So Arthur kept calling, every Sunday. Some weeks she answered, some weeks she didn't. He called anyway. He met his grandson, twice. He learned the boy's name, his favorite color, the gap where his front tooth used to be. It was late. He knew it was late, but he kept showing up. Arthur died 3 years later. The news traveled fast. The papers called him a titan, a self-made legend. $340 million, built from nothing. At his funeral, 12 chairs were set out. 9 of them sat empty. Old partners, old rivals, men who had once needed something from him and now needed nothing at all. But 3 chairs were not empty. His daughter sat in the front row. Beside her, the grandson he had finally, barely, come to know. And his ex-wife, who came not for the man he had been, but for the man he had almost become at the very end. It wasn't 12. It wasn't the room full of people he'd once imagined would come. But it was real. And for the first time in his life, Arthur hadn't had to buy a single seat. Subscribe for more stories. This is a story, not financial advice.